And this is part 2 of Paddy McQuillan's trip to Glasgow. And Sonny told me you'd get riding a wheen a mile for a penny. Now there's the post office, says Sonny. I'll wait here till you come back. I'd some bother getting to the right place. And when I did get there, as I didn't want everybody to care my business, I wagged my finger at one of the fellas, and when he come forward to me, says I, "That's a nice morning, sir." He nodded his head. "This is a gay big post office, about wee hay," says I. "What can I do for you?" says he. Thinks I, "You're a prince sort of chap, and then he wanted to have any crack with me." "Have you a letter for me?" says I. "What name?" says he. "Sir," says I. "What's your name?" says he. "Patrick McQuillan," says I. "Or maybe she'll put Paddy on it." I wasn't long till he picked out a letter out of a bundle and brought it her to me. "Give me 8pence," he says. "What for?" says I. "There's money in it," says he. I clean loosed my temper at that, for I thought he'd opened it. I knowed me to be a stranger in Glasgow. "Bad manners to you," says I, for an inquisitive Scotch body. "How dare you open my letters? That's where it comes to sin, or you might run away with it. No wonder you fun it for me so quick, when you can't say muckle about it." "What's this? What's this?" says a fussy wee man coming forward. "That's that fella there," says I. "He has a letter for me, and he managed to stew it out of the kettle and opened it, for he kens there's money in it." The chap wasn't a bit angry. He just laughed and flung the letter at the other man that had spake to me. He lifted it up and says he, "Aye, there's money in it, and it's not registered. You'll have to pay double registry fee." Well, seeing that he was a civil-looking man, I didn't like to say any more. So I gave him the 8pence and got my letter. When I opened it, there was an order in it for £3, and there was a shilling rolled up in a bit of paper. "What's a shilling for?" says I. So before I went further, I read the letter, and my ma said that Wally Kirk had sent a shilling for me to buy him a tobacco box in Glasgow. I bought him the box, but I believe I made the pair, me 8pence, when I went home. Well, a man showed me where to get my money order changed, but I had to stand a long time before it come my turn. Thinks I, now they had the money paid away, and maybe I should come back again. So I says to the young man, says I, "Sir, I have an order here for £3. He that muckle money in it in the house." "Because," says I, "dinna pay yourself a bit, and I'll come back tomorrow." And he laughed at that, and says he, "I could pay you 300 as fast as £3. "Is that a fact?" says I. "Man, but Glasgow's a fine place. Why, down at our post office, sometimes you couldn't get a postage stamp. And at the Ballycurry railway station, if you offered a half sovereign for your ticket, you'd to stand half an hour before they'd get as much money in as would give you the change." "That's a queer place, that," says he. "Write your name then," says he, pointing where I had to sign. I wrote my name as well as I could, and I reached him back the paper. "What sent you this?" says he. "A friend of mine," says I. "What's their name?" says he. "Oh," says I, "it's all right. I wonder what you tap me for." He throwed it down. "I'd be good to serve other folk." "No," says I to myself, "that just serves me right for being so free with folk. The impudence of that fella to ask me who I sent it. I'll not tell him yon bit." After I stand a good while, I says, when he got a slack, "Are you going to give me the money, boy?" "Aye, when you tell me what sent it," says he. "Then I'll just no please you," says I. "And if you say muckle mair, I'll gang for a policeman." "Come here," says he. "Were you born in Timbuktu?" "No, I was not," says I. "I was born at home." "I see," says he. "Well, it's a rule of the office that you maun tell what sends the money afore you dare pay it." "Ah, well," says I beg your pardon, me ma sent it." He laughed from ear to ear. "And what's her name though?" says he. "Mary," says I. "Mary McQuillan." Then he looked at the paper again and says he, "You didn't spell your name right." "No," says I. "Didn't he provoke me here far? Who do you came up with I should spell my name?" Well, you didn't spell it the same way as your mother, says he. Oh, says I, it was the fault of the bad pen you gave me. Nobody can spell Rick without pen. Some drunk body has been writing it. As there's nae muckle ink in your bottle, as would drown a newborn flea. I got my money at last, but afore I gang through the same bother again, I'll carry a wee pound in my pocket. Come awa, says Sammy, till I buy you a pair of shin, and then I'll take you 2 or 3 places worth looking at. I will do that, says I. What's your shoemaker? I like Robertson, o 74 Queen Street, says he. You're the decentest man in Glasgow, and the only man that could ever fit me. I looked in at Sonny's feet, and I thought to myself that it would be an easy job to fit him. He had a pair of the biggest feet I ever seen in a man or a woman. Did he charge you muckle mair nor a man with ordinary sized feet, says I. No, young bet, says he. I mean ye, here's a couple of brave insect crushers. Beetle crushers, you mean, says I. Man, Sonny, if I had you at my place, I would never put a rider in the grun, for you could just take a down out of the fields and flatten every clod with your feet. You're very sore on me, says Sonny. But here we are, and he stepped into a nice wee shoe shop. Mr. Robertson was very keen and civil. He bought a pair of myself, and they were a darling fit. Then we went on a long walk. Sonny showed me Paddy's Market, and at the Southcott Market, and Glasco Green, and a lot of places that I forget the names of. My, it's a wonderful place, that Glasgow. We done it along looking at this thing and the other, and glaring in the shop windows. I saw some nice cotton handkerchiefs in a shop, and says I, Sonny, stand there a minute or two till I buy me ma a handkerchief. I stepped into the shop, and a nice looking well-dressed man come up to me, and says he, well, sir, what can we do for you today? Says I want to see if you only nice coloured handkerchiefs. Lots of them, says he. And with that, he takes me up to the counter and says he to a big, fat, lazy-looking fella that was standing with a yardstick in his hand, says he, Mr. McAllister, show this gentleman some of your coloured handkerchiefs. And then he went away to speak to somebody else. I saw the big fella laughing when the master man called me a gentleman, and says he, glaring at me from head to foot, what colour would you like, says he. Red, if you please, says I. Is it for yourself, says he. No, says I, it's for me ma. She likes to roll a handkerchief around her head in the mornings, and she'll be pleased if I take her home in for Glasgow. Well, here's a nice one, says he, throwing down a tartan thing. And I noticed him winking at the t'other chaps. I saw he wanted to take the rise out of me, so I shook my head, and says I, no, that yen is just no red enough. Well, I'll show you something better, says he, and with that, he flung down a flaming orange one. Well, that's gay and near the thing, says I, but it's not just the shade that I want yet. And sure as I'm here, but the next yen he threw down was a white, but the border. I'm sure that'll please you, says he. Man, it will that, says I, what's the price of it? But bless me, says I, what a queer smell it is. Smell, says he. And with that, he put his nose into the counter. That was just what I wanted. Now, thinks I, my boy, I'll learn you to make fun of me. So just as he stepped forward, I laid hold of his ears, and if I didn't gie his nose 2 or 3 good sharp dunts again the counter, my name was no Paddy McQuillan. The blood flowed out of the handkerchief, and it was red enough then. Do you ken the colour I want now, says I? Because if you didn't, that's it. I turned round and stepped out like a lord, and I seen the fellas in the shop laughing till they were hiding their sides. When I went out, Sonny saw that I was a wee bit excited looking, and he asked me what was wrong. Och, says I, one of them counter hopper buddies was trying to take a rise out of me, but I believe his nose feels bigger than ever it did afore, and his ears will no kill for a wee bit yet. Then I told him all about it. I'd hardly done speaking when somebody tipped me on the shoulder. I burled in, and there was the very boy I'd him the railway. What do you want, says I? Do you owe you anything? You do not, says he. but I'm something in your debt. Well, says I, be quick and pay me, for I want me dinner. Says he, I give mine to thresh you while you still hail bearing your body. Is that a fact, says I? And what wages hae ye? What do you want to ken that for, says he? Because, says I, if you do what you say, I'll give you a week's wages at the price of the handkerchief I spoiled into the bargain. I want no fechting with you, says he. But if you didn't apologise, I'll give you in charge. You'll what, says I? If you stand there much longer, I'll send you home that your mother'll not ken you. Sonny poked at my coat tail and says he, here's a pillar. That's nae pillar, says I. A great big long fella that I took to be a farm and can step up with white gloves on him. Move on out of that, says he. Move on yourself, says I. I'm on through water in yourself. Sonny took to his heels and I went after him. I wish that I heard the clatter of on Peter's big feet after us. He was far simple for us, and before we went 20 yards he gripped me by the back of the neck and held me like a vice. That's right, says McAllister. Take him to the office, for he has best killed me, and I'll swear my life agin him. To the office they took me, sure enough, and only that Sonny had went and got a friend to bail me, I'd have been locked up for a night. There wasn't much sleep for me, I can tell ye, and I was up gay early the next morning. Try and take your breakfast, says Sonny, for you'll maybe be a day in the court. Well, says I, get me a drop of good tea and I'll eat me piece of me in bread and butter till it. I wish I'd have seen the tea they brought in. Says I, Sonny, that's Scotch tea, I suppose. I wonder what my ma would say if she seen that. Wait till you come to County Down, and she'll give you a cup that strong that'll bend your spoon till you stir it. Well, says Sammy, I suppose you'll no call what you're drinking very strong. Strong, says I. Why, man, look at it. It's hardly strength enough to run out of the pot. And that's the end of part 2 of Paddy McQuillan's trip to Glasgow.